We're live. Join us, everyone. We're going to be starting here in just a moment. This is going to be an exciting show.
Today y mañana.
Today y mañana. This is going to be a blast today. We definitely want you all to be participating. We're going to have a controversial topic to begin.
Oh, wow. Controversial.
This is exciting. There's just those moments.
Absolutely. On Tuesday, I saw you. I heard you on Jerry Miller, and I have to say something about the Cuba Libre, which maybe you guys don't know. So the Cuba Libre is a drink, right? It's a Cuban drink, which is basically Coke and rum and some other things in lime. Mm-hmm. However, there's a lot of Cubans that basically call it El Mentiroso. Right, because let's face it, Cuba Libre, it's a lie. It's the little lie because Cuba Libre, we haven't gotten it yet. So there we are. It's El Mentiroso. So next time you go somewhere, maybe you ask for El Mentiroso, and maybe we can turn it around and get Cuba Libre.
To make it a statement and a drink at the same time.
Exactly.
Join us. We're going to want your comments. You're going to see what this first topic is that Xavier and I are going to discuss. We're going to want your input here. So make sure you're following us.
Controversial topic, yeah.
Controversial topic. You'll see. There's two basic controversies in finance. One of them is brokers, which you heard me give my opinion about. Right. My opinion on the I Love Seville flagship show with the great Jerry Miller, and then for us in finance, it's the Federal Reserve. So we'll skip the Federal Reserve snarkiness today,
boy.
And we'll save that for another one. And we're going
to favorite topic.
We're going to go brokers and the regulators and all the financial industry. We got some people watching. Judah, I think we are ready when you are.
Excellent. Quiet on the set.
Welcome everyone to Today Mañana. I'm Alex, this is Xavier. We're glad to have you join us. We have a huge show for you today. We're going to start off, as we were chatting about just with the mics live. We have a controversial topic based on what's going on. We've got GameStop is falling again today.
Right.
We've got the markets in turmoil. I think the Treasury Secretary is going to meet with the SEC to figure out what we can do about these little retail traders.
Oh yeah, that's what we need.
Sticking their nose in hedge funds business.
Let's not go there with that one.
And then of course our big interview for today we'll have Christelle Knoll. She is I have a direction here. I had said top 20 for 2019. It's actually top 10 new agents for 2020. Joining us, the vice president, also a forward Adelante. It's going to be a huge interview. She's a great story. We're going to do half in English, half in Spanish. You're going to want to stay for both parts. Practice your Spanish. If you're speaking English, there's a great chance. We're giving you a free, what's that course where you go to the other countries?
Roselle? What is it? Oh,
no, that's the Rosetta Stone. Rosetta Stone. The method where you don't live in another country and you learn the language. We're doing it for free. We're not even charging you to learn Spanish on this show. It's free on Facebook. All right, so let's start. We got to start with the big news. I talked about it on I Love Seville show.
You did?
The other day, but GameStop controversy. Obviously, there was a massive short going on. There was a short squeeze attempted. It's falling again today. I think it's down another 10%. Obviously, you don't want to be the last man out.
That's right.
Of these.
You don't want to do that.
These stories. Yeah. But I think your opinion is probably somewhat similar to mine in terms of whether people have the right to do this and whether they should have stopped trading. But one thing I definitely wanted to get your opinion on is, if you're talking to the average person who's thinking about saving their money or thinking about investing, what should their takeaway? What should their takeaway be from having watched this last week? Because you've got all the sides. You've got people saying, "Well, I really can't. There's now no one for me. I thought Robinhood was for the little guy, take it from the rich, give to the poor." But they obviously were not. Made the same moves as the big brokerage houses. So if you're the average person, what do you take away from what happened last week and into the beginning of this week?
Well, so we could take a look at this two ways, right? So initially, think about when you want to invest, right? And throughout my career, I've had many mentors, right? And one of them I remember well said there's three ways to invest, right? And there's investing, right? There's speculating and there's gambling, right? So if you want to save for your retirement, for example, or save for a house or whatever, that's called investing. You better make sure that you know what you're doing. You better make sure you do your research, and you make sure that you are well diversified in whatever portfolio you choose to adhere to, right? Speculating means that you could take a little bit of your money and say, boy, somebody told me that GameStop's going up, or somebody told me that there's a new biotech stock that's going to do great, right? And so you want to spend a little money there. You want to put in $500, $1,000, whatever it may be, and just let it ride, see what happens. That's speculating, right? Because you didn't do the research, somebody told you. Gambling's a little bit what happened with GameStop, right? Because in essence, you know that there is something going on that is beyond your control, and sooner or later, and sooner or later, somebody's going to get hurt, right? And I mean, shorting stocks has been happening for many, many years. The only issue I have is that since 2008, when basically rates started to drop like a rock, and we've had very low interest rates for, since 2009, let's face it, we had interest rates literally below 1%, right? So what does that mean? Because when you short a stock, you need to borrow that stock.
Theoretically.
Theoretically.
I mean, when the stock is shorted 140%, somebody's not borrowing.
Right, yeah. Somebody's not borrowing. But anyway, the borrowing out of borrowers, right? I mean, it's like the double leverage situation, right? It's like you can borrow off your portfolio, you buy some more, and then you borrow off what you just bought, right? I mean, that's basically what you're doing, right? So that's how you get into trouble. However, when you're borrowing, that means you're paying something. Well, when interest rates are 1%, 2%, it doesn't hurt to short a stock, because remember, you are borrowing for a certain time period. It's not an open-ended borrow. Say, I'm going to borrow, and I'm going to hold it on until this thing really happens. And the second thing that you and I disagree completely, you and I disagree with what happens, is that these guys have the ability to go out there and say, hey, I just want to let you know that this company is really lousy, and let me tell you why it's lousy, it's not doing well, et cetera. So they badmouth the company. And I think behavioral science tells you that it's hard to buy a stock when somebody says, this is a great stock. You sit there and go, I don't know if I should buy it. But if you own the stock and somebody says, hey, this thing is going to zero, it's dropping, and whatever, you say, I got to get out of this quickly. So you're helping all the shorts, and what's going to happen? Sooner or later, they have to get back into the market. What does that mean? They borrowed the stock and they sold it. Now they got to go and buy back to give it back to whom they borrowed from, right? And again, this is a time period. Usually there's, whether it be a week, 3 days, 2 weeks,
there's only so much time they have to do it.
So what happens? These guys from Reddit decided that they were going to go out and buy this stock, and whether they did it to hurt the hedge fund, which I don't have no problems. I mean, it's a free country, right? As long as you can do it in a legal way, that's fine. Or they did it because they thought, hey, we want to save this company. Who cares? The point is, they went in there and they started to buy. And what happens is that's called a short squeeze. In other words, the guys that are short find themselves that the stock is no longer going down, that they can buy it cheap. Now it's starting to go up. Now they need to quickly make a decision, buy the shares at more than what they sold it for, and give it back. And as you said, when you are in a situation, we shorted more than 100% of what those shares are, 140%. So how's that possible? How can you short 140%? You're in big trouble, right? Because now you are rushing quickly in order to make sure that you just don't lose your shirt, right? And that's what happens. So should the little guy get in there? I have no issues with that, right? I mean, you want to play that game. You just have to be smart. You have to be smart and know that you don't want to wait till the very last second, right? Because if you look at history, once you reach the top, and I mean history in the sense over the last 20 years more or less, right? For all those companies that have been shorted, once it hits the peak, in the next 1 to 4 days, 50% of the stock drops. Right, like that. I mean, that's really quickly. So if you're sitting around, or you go on, on a one-day trip and you come back, you could have lost 30, 40% of what you just invested in. And if you were one of the last ones in, you may not make any money, and you may lose some money. So you have to make sure. And then, second of all, within 60 days, it basically gives everything back, because people don't short stocks that are very good, right? And
you short ones that are
in 2008.
struggling.
This happened to Volkswagen. Now, Volkswagen is a big company, right? But they had those issues because of the recall, so they started to short. Now, that's a big company, right? But most of the companies that you see shorted, are companies that either are on their way out or are very small. And we see that all the time with biotech stocks.
Biotech. Every biotech company, they come out with their good news, and then you've got a Seeking Alpha article. This company is finished. Yeah. It's all baloney. It's all smoke and mirrors, and the thing crashes, and then 5 years later, it's up like 300%.
And then the fine print, right? In about like a
tiny
a 0.30 font, right? Where guys like me definitely can't read it at all, even with a magnifying glass, right? It tells you that the guy's short, right? So who reads that, right?
No.
All you're reading is like, oh, this company stinks. Let me get out of it, or let me sell it myself, right? So that happens, right? And so the bottom line, though, is that in the majority of cases, right? There are issues with these companies, and these hedge funds find ways, and they like to short the companies. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? It's a free market, right? What we don't like is when people step in and say, wait a minute, the little guy is winning, and Wall Street, the big hedge funds are losing. That can't be, right? Because
that's picking sides.
You can't have the big guys lose.
Can't pick the sides. So we have a couple comments here. Let us know what you think. What is your takeaway from last week? Not how you're feeling, but what is your takeaway as an investor or someone who's even following the markets from what happened last week? We've got Lily DeRay, glad she can trust the investments at Emergent, of course. Thank you, Lily. We do have that long-term perspective.
Did you tell her we lost money on GameStop? No, I'm just kidding.
She doesn't know about the GameStop move yet. No, and saying all of that is crazy. It is. It's a crazy time, which is why, gambling is always going to be crazy.
Right.
If you've watched the movies, if you've read Dostoevsky, gambling is crazy. You can actually go crazy if you gamble too much. Speculating is challenging. For the long term, it's the investing. That's the piece that really has to be the bulk of your portfolio. Because in reality, we're managing, for the future, you're managing risk. You're trying to figure out, here's how much risk can I take with my hard-earned money. Because what investing is basically, it's future, at any time of saving, is future consumption, current consumption put off for the future.
Right.
Right? So it's like I could buy something today, instead I'll invest it so I can buy something tomorrow.
Exactly.
Right? And so you have to decide how much you want to risk of that thing you want to buy tomorrow. Your retirement or something like that. And so you manage that risk in different ways. You manage it with investing, you manage it sometimes with speculating and gambling. Sometimes you do it with insurance. You do it with a lot of different methods.
We've touched on financial planning before, and the financial planning encompasses so many things. And without any doubt, on the investing side, it's a function of like I said before, a well-diversified portfolio. What are the goals of the person that you are doing the financial planning for, the retirement planning? What are their goals? And you create a portfolio. And as I said, there's an enormous amount of research that goes into the decisions that are being made that go into a portfolio, right?
Absolutely.
And we talk about financial planning too in the sense of insurance, right? And I know we have an insurance person coming, but that's an important point. In other words, throughout your career, and especially once you have a family, insurance becomes a major part of what you need to think about. Whether it be life insurance, you buy a home, homeowners insurance, you need a car, you need car insurance. So that's a planning process for today, and then granted also for when you retire. What type of insurances do I need? Long-term care. Do I want life insurance? Do I want the insurance so that when I pass away, I leave it for my children? So there's a lot to think about in the whole planning process, not just the, what your future expenses are going to be, what your income is going to be through Social Security and any other pension plan, what your investments have been and what they're going to generate, but also, what insurance.
Life is risk. There's risk in life. So it's all about figuring out what buckets do I use to manage the risk. We've got
and mitigate the risk.
And mitigate the risk. We got another comment here. Olga Morse.
Olga.
Thank you both for your service.
We have to get her on one of these days.
We have to get her on.
Because she's bilingual.
Founder of
she can help me out tremendously here.
She certainly can. She'll teach us. I think she's a master at always, fixing what's wrong with your Spanish.
Oh, absolutely. I remember I did something in Spanish once. I wrote it up, and a previous firm that I worked with wanted me to translate their brochure in Spanish, and I did, and I said, I know this is probably not really the best, so I sent it to
send it to
her.
Olga.
And I said, oh boy, there's a lot of red lines here. I could tell she was a teacher. It's like,
Yeah.
oh my God, I felt like I was back in
But she just
in
read.
grammar school, with all those red
But it's
lines.
great she's watching, because now we'll have the whole FAVA team. I'm not sure we've had all 4 FAVA team members in one place. I mean, Olga's here virtually.
That's
For
right.
a while, because you're the treasurer of Forward Adelante. I'm the president of Forward Adelante. Olga was the founder,
That's
also
right.
one of our vice presidents. And we're about to welcome to the set, I'm going to switch over here, Christelle Noel, who is the other vice president of Forward Adelante.
That's a great name. I know you say Kristen Noel, but I think of Noel because that's
Noel.
Noel. There you see. I knew it. That's a beautiful name, Noel.
See, already I'm
I mean, it reminds me of
pronouncing
Christmas, good times. Welcome,
All right.
Christelle. How are you?
Good. Thank
And
you so
I-
much for having me
Thank
here.
you. Well, I know she's a new mom, right?
Ah,
You can see.
yes.
Look at those eyes. Look at that glimmer. You can tell it's a new mom, right? The smile.
First time I left the baby, actually.
Oh boy. Oh boy.
Yeah, it's
That's
kind of
amazing.
difficult.
So, it's funny, this morning, I happened to be, like, I was going through, like, old Forward Adelante magazines.
Uh-huh.
And Judy, you can put this on the screen for everyone to see. And I came across this one, which you probably recognize from,
yeah.
what's the year? 2012.
Yes.
2012.
So 9 years ago,
9 years
Forward
ago, that's crazy.
Adelante, Virginia's first bilingual business journal, has on this.
Christelle.
Well, it's this, like, this new employee at a State Farm agency
Who's that?
from Mexico, and and I'm reading this article, and her name is Christelle, right? And then you read the first line: if you were told that hiring a new employee could increase your clientele base by 300 in less than a year, what would be your first thought? And it's just amazing to see. And so the article is all about, of course, your story and your dream. And just amazing when you look back 9 years to
Yeah,
think that
that's
from
crazy.
where you started and your dream in here to now
Yes.
seeing it so fulfilled in having your own agency.
Yes, that is actually crazy. Well, that magazine actually, thank you, Olga. If you are, watching
Listening.
right now or listening right now.
She wants the copy. That's my copy.
Olga actually was the one that introduced me to all the, the leadership here in Charlottesville about the Latino community and the professionals and everything. Her passion about this topic. So I thank Olga because of that magazine. It has been, in my home since then in frame, and it's really a very good memory. But yes, so it started with, my dream started like 9 years ago. I was just talking with my mom about it when I was driving here. It's like, you never realize how long it takes you until you actually, you think about it,
Yeah,
and
you
you
look
are
back
like,
and
go
you say-
back, and you're like, wow, it took us 9 years to be here. And to be here, it means like to own my agency. It's not like, well, I'm super successful and all of this. No, it's just to take this step. It took me 9 years. So it is crazy to think that.
But listen, that's amazing because there's a lot of people that live here all their life and never get to where you are, right? So it's not just, it's 9 years is a long time, but to a certain respect, 9 years sometimes is very short, and what you've been able to accomplish in that short period of time, it's amazing.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, since I started working for, for an agent here with a State Farm, it really made me realize how much our community needed. That was my goal. I found my passion by helping our community, because, you find out that a lot of the times they know they have to have certain things here, requirements here in America, but they just have to have it. They just have to buy it, but they don't know really why.
Right.
Yep.
So I knew that my community needed me here. So that actually I'm here where I am right now because of our community, our Latino community, our Hispanic community.
That's
so I thank them.
fantastic.
Well,
every day.
you brought something that they didn't have, right? So in other words, you were able to speak their language. So because there's nothing worse than you go to a country, right, and you don't speak the language very well, and all of a sudden somebody's trying to sell you something, right? Immediately it's like,
Oh, what do you want?
What are they selling
Yeah.
me, and why? Do I really need it? While if you speak their language, you say, yes, here's why you need it. You just bought well, this microphone's always in my way. You just bought a car, right? So you need insurance, right? And you explain why you need insurance, the type of insurance. So by being able to do that in their language, I think is that was
and I came in that time where actually other people were taking advantage of our own community. Our own people from our community were actually taking advantage of our community, our people.
Right.
So it was a little bit hard to trust because they were already kind of like, okay, what do you want to sell to me?
Yep.
How much do I need to pay? So working to get, to trust me, it took a little bit, but then once they knew what were my intentions really, it was easy. Our community is the most loyal. I can tell you.
The strong bonds.
Yes, they are actually, they refer you all the time. If they really, like how you treat them, how you respect them,
right.
They send you everybody. So I actually love to work with our community.
It's a good business for that too, also, because that's exactly right. I mean, referrals are so important in our businesses because you do a good job and somebody says, yeah, I mean, this person is good and they're trustworthy and we like them. You may like them also when you send them, and then without any doubt, in a situation where you do a good job and you speak their language, forget it. I mean, it's fantastic.
Actually, talking about the referrals, like in this business. Being a State Farm agent, you have to, sales is based on sales,
sure.
So you have to have a lot of people, to call, to close, to sell and everything. And I was just listening the other day, one of agent speaking, saying like, well, everybody buys a lot of leads, especially new agents buy a lot of leads from companies, But, and I just thought to myself, I just was thinking, I don't buy leads. I don't have to I had to at the beginning, but honestly, I'm no good with leads. I'm no good about, if I don't know, I cannot see you, it's for me hard to sell because you don't know me. You are not looking at me and, seeing what I am passionate about. So I'm really bad in leads, but I also don't like to kind of, put money sometimes in the trash when actually they are not really, they don't work really well. So I was just thinking I don't buy leads. Thanks to my customers, like the referrals that we get all the time.
That's amazing. So much trust. And just so I always wonder, did you always want to be, because you're so natural at just getting people to know you and trust you, and you're so friendly and warm and you help with that. Were you always drawn to this industry, or did you start off when you came from Mexico originally? Where did you start off saying, I want to do something completely different from insurance?
No, so this is a great question. Actually, I come from a family that are business owners. So since I grew up, being a baby, being a little kid, I grew up with this a kind of image in my mind, or this kind of life, that my dad was a business owner all his life, and my mom too. So I never saw them going to a job or basically having a boss,
right.
Having to go at 8 a.m. and leave at 5 p.m. So it's not bad at all, but I didn't grow up with that mentality, So for me was, I want to have my own business. I didn't know what type of business, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I was in the food industry for a little bit. I wanted to have a restaurant. But then when I came here, especially because to Charlottesville, and I was introduced to this business that it's totally different than in Mexico. In Mexico, you are not required to have insurance. You buy insurance because you want to protect your car that is, $50,000, whatever, but you don't really think about the liability. What is your responsibility? So here, the most important is that. So being here really helped me to, I really like this because we can help the customer to protect themselves for a really bad, lawsuit, legal issue,
sure. That's
or help them to protect their lives, talking about life insurance and everything. So that was I became really passionate about the topic.
So it was sort of like the fact that you needed it yourself, you started to become interested in that route. Wow.
Yeah.
And then, so how did you end up in Charlottesville?
My dad and my brother moved here long time ago. So while I was working at Disney, I did like 4 internships in Disney in Orlando.
Yes. In Orlando?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I did like 4 internships there. I love it. I thought that, well, if I don't have, if I don't get to own my business, then I'm going to work in Walt Disney World for the rest of my life.
Work for Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse.
Exactly. He was the best boss. It was like, who doesn't want to have Mickey Mouse as your boss? So that was, my plan B, for example. But my brother and my dad knew people here that introduced me, and they thought they were looking for somebody that speak English and Spanish,
right.
And were in the marketing area because they wanted to actually make sure that our community knew that State Farm can help them too.
Right.
But there is not a lot of people. Well, really, there is a lot of professional people, that speak Spanish and English, but maybe not in the insurance industry, or it wasn't at that time. I applied. I left the job in Disney. Like it sounds irresponsible, but no, I actually give my notice. But I got the opportunity to just have an interview here. I didn't even have the job. I just to have an interview, but I'm like, I'm gonna get the job.
I don't have any. You leave the first job and just for the interview. I got this.
I was like, I'm sorry, Mickey Mouse, but I gotta do something. I cannot live in, this magic world every day. So I came and applied, and I stayed, and I was working for that agent here in Charlottesville for 5 years. Then I moved to another agency just to see the different type of, business
right.
and model business that each one had, really successful agents, of course, to help me to combine and I learned from both a lot. And, I'm applying many things that I learned in this agency right now. So it was a really amazing opportunity. So that's the reason I got here. My family, my brother and my dad were living here.
And then,
Yeah. They told me they are looking for somebody like you. I'm like, yes, it sounds like Crystal's job right now.
It does. Especially, within 1 year, 300 people said it's perfect. It's a perfect fit.
Yeah, and I love to talk to people. I love to, the business. Like, I was just thinking about what I'm going to tell tomorrow. Well, a lot of people talk about what they are passionate about. It. So I can define 3 things that really kind of are my passions. Like my family, of course.
Right.
Business. I love the business world because I know trading. You give me something that I need, I give you something that you need. Exactly. And it's just like an art, honestly. It's like trading. And traveling. So cultures, languages, different food. Those are the three things that actually I'm passionate about. And that's the reason probably, I am where I am right now in the agency, and owning my business gives me the opportunity to be right now with my baby at home. Well, everybody's at home right now.
Everyone's
really.
at home. But not everyone has a baby at home.
Yes.
To make things happier.
And I can travel right now, but it's okay.
So I have a question for you, because one of the things that, I met you, I think it was 2008, 2009, I remember, and you can see the charisma come out immediately when there are some people you meet and the charisma's right there, right? And so my question is, so here we are, 2020 hits, March hits, and everybody has to stay home, and people like you and even us, we have the same challenge, right? That we like to meet people, have people come in and you can just feel the flow much better. How has it worked for you and your agency? And I know you're top 10, top 9, whatever it may be. So how did it work for you, and how did that change?
Well, we are so lucky that actually the company that we represent, which is State Farm, give us a lot of tools, like that we can basically do business anywhere you are. Like if I go to Mexico for 1 week, I can be working from there. So that's the technology advanced.
Right.
But inside of the agency, basically, we had to make sure that the priorities are taken care of, so the health of our, customers and employees. So at the beginning was kind of like, okay, we get to stay home for, everybody thought this is not going to last for a long time.
Right.
Then it was 1 month, and then the second month, and then, okay, I'm ready to go back. We start going back little by little at just 2 people at a time. But I was pregnant at the time, so I needed to be very careful. And so we keep all the time 1 person in the office, and everybody else was working from home. And we basically, with our customers, is over the phone. And now we have the tool that we can have actually face-to-face through conference and everything with our customers, that we can be able to help them.
Right.
So we have been adjusting to that right now, that world. And I think that it was a really good opportunity to do that, because that means that if you are, a little bit sick, or you don't feel like going, to the office, you can still work from home.
Exactly.
And you can still, a lot of people work more from home than from the office. It's because they don't have a time, that they need to leave from 8 to 5. A lot of people ended up like working more from home. Wow. So that's what it is right now, and we have to take that opportunity.
We've actually heard that and seen that even in our family, where people
true.
are working. In some cases it's good, in some cases it's not so good, because you are, like if you have your own business, that's fine, right? You're working longer hours, it's up to you. But sometimes you're working for somebody else, and before you know it, you get up at 7:30, you log in, and before you know it, it's 7 o'clock at night, and you're still on. It's like, then all of a sudden it's like, wait a minute, I don't have a life anymore, right? But
that's true.
But it's amazing the changes that have occurred, right, in a span of less than 1 year because of the pandemic. In other words, the feeling was that we were, in a way, beginning to move in that direction to a certain point.
Yeah.
But this has forced people to really find ways to communicate and interact without necessarily going into the office or whatever. And I mean, again, and I said this in a different show, I'm an antique kind of guy, so you can tell by my face and gray hair. So I like the in-person, and I still think that over time, people will want to go back, because for me, being able to see somebody, shake hands with somebody is so much more important than a Zoom meeting. It's just
100% agree with you, definitely. I by meeting with the customers, you really get to know them well, their needs, and they get to know who you are, who are they talking with, where is, the agency or the office that they actually have their business with. So it's a lot of more personal than just over the phone.
To know the needs is so important.
Yes.
It's one thing, just like you're saying, it's one thing to sell someone something, but to get to know what they actually need and are looking for and be able to deliver it, I feel like that's the true connection. That's real business. Like, real business is creating value by saying not what do I have that you don't really want that I can sell you. It's what do I have that you need or actually want. Yes. And can I find that for you? Can I help deliver that to you? And so when you think about like the Latino community, what would you say, as you look out at the Latino community and Latino business owners in particular, because I know we start businesses, I always love this stat. And Olga, I got this stat from Olga, and I've been using it ever since, that Latinos, we start businesses at 3 times the rate of the average American that's born. And so when you looked at like the Latino business community, what are some of the things you see as like a Latina in business that could be helpful to really help that community grow even more? Or what are like obstacles that we can sort of take out of the way, whether they're new, they're recent, or if you've seen them for a while, like things that you see that are needs?
Okay, definitely lack of information. So when they actually have this amazing idea about, I want to own my, from contractor's company to a restaurant, they see a lot of steps. They see they need to register with the city, with the county, they need to have insurance, they need to get licensed, they need to, all of this. So they get basically very afraid because they don't speak the language. So they have to find somebody that helps them to go through that process. And there is a lot of people, a lot of, little agencies or that helps to do all this process for them. But I think that's the main obstacle for them, to be able to get everything before they open the doors. Okay, all this paperwork, all these requirements that they need to have. So what we do is helping them to basically see the steps very clear and the easiest way they can see it. And we help them to, this person can help you to do this because we trust them, and they send them my way because we can help them with the insurance. So everything goes kind of like, easier for them if they have a really good system that can help them to go through this process, because they can do the job. They can, they can do the job. They are like, just put me to do the job. I do it. But besides that, there is a lot of other stuff that they need to do. So I think don't have the support of somebody helping them to go through this process. I think that's the biggest challenge I can see.
Yeah, that is. I remember when I first started in business, you think you're ready to go. And I'm like, okay, I was doing economic research at the time. And I'm like, okay, I create the economic research, I find the client, I sell the research. Yeah. And then day one, I spend the whole day website, at state corporation commission license, city license. And I'm like, I'm doing nothing that has anything to do with the actual business. Yeah. So if it was that difficult for me, because I was born in New York City, I was, raised here. Yeah. I can only imagine someone, if you're coming here from another country, which has entirely different rules.
Yeah.
Or maybe in some cases, depending what country you come from, maybe hardly any rules. And you come here and the United States says, well, you have to do this, you have to do that. If you don't get this insurance, you could be sued. And so there's all these fear factors of saying, well, if you don't have this, you could get in trouble. If you don't have this, they'll come after you for taxes. And so I almost feel like it can sort of, if it's too much and people don't have the steps, it can be frightening. And they'll say, well, in that case, I won't do it.
That's
because it's too
what
much.
I was going to say. A lot of people, they just, say like, give up, because it is too much, and they don't want to ask everybody for help or paying so much money just for a leather or whatever. So we try to help them as much as we can when they come to our office.
Well, it seems to me that the solution is actually much easier than that, right? We just have to get rid of all those rules and regulations and licenses and taxes. We get rid of all of that, and you know how many new businesses we'd have.
Oh my God! Yeah.
I've always felt make it easier or one place where, because I don't know about you, when I went to go get, yes.
If they can do everything in one place, like, okay, you have to go from here, there, and there. Like,
exactly.
That's it.
The first time I tried to get an Albemarle business license, and I'm sitting there and I need to go from the business license. I filled it all out in this one place, and then I see zoning requirement.
Right.
And we're in an office building.
Exactly.
That's especially built for this purpose. There's other businesses in this building, and I find the zoning office and get this thing in, and they didn't really know where it was. And I'm like, if I was a Latino business owner, I'd be done by now. Because first off, I wouldn't even know what the heck is a zoning office, and how do I even get in touch with these people? And it's like, it's 3 different places. I'm like, all I wanted was to pay you taxes.
Exactly.
And I was trying to do the right thing and pay you taxes, and you make it so difficult.
I remember that discussion that we had, I forget where we were, that somebody came in and talked about it, and everybody around the room was a small business owner, right? And I think maybe about 10% knew that you had to have the license with the county or the city, depending where your business was. And I turned to the lady and I said, do you realize how, it's basically, how do you expect somebody to think about that I should contact the city of Albemarle County to see if there's anything else that I should do, or is there a license that I need to apply for, right? That just doesn't happen. It's like I always used to tell the teachers, in other words, a student can't ask you a question, right, unless he has enough knowledge to ask the question, because unless you teach him properly, right, because you don't know what to ask. And these are things that, have always irritated me, because, there's so many things that you don't even know you're supposed to do, frankly, because probably there's too many of them, but there's so many things you don't know what to do. And, it's so difficult for anybody to start a business. Imagine a minority to be able to start a business. It's very challenging.
And now that you actually say something about taxes, that's another issue too, because they open their business, they open their insurance and everything, and then a year later, they get all these, forms, 1099s, W-2, all of that. And it's like, what is this? What do I do with this?
Right, right.
And then they ended up, owning a lot of taxes because they are business owners. They don't pay any taxes during the year.
Right.
So then it's like, well, do I need to pay $10,000 now? No, I close my business. So it's another thing that there is enough knowledge and enough material where they can actually go and say, where can you explain to me how taxes work?
What do I need to do?
Personally, I don't like to talk about taxes. It makes me it really stresses me out.
You.
And I can just say,
why.
if they tell me you need to pay this amount of money for taxes, okay. But if you tell me, you need to pay this amount of taxes for this and that, and you need to actually prove and deduct and all of this, it's just like, oh my gosh, it's so overwhelming. That to know that you have to prove so many things, and you may be able to do it just so much. As a business owner, it is a lot, like a lot of expenses, a lot of income that you get from different places, different people, and then just to be able to, consolidate in one place to actually, report your taxes is difficult too.
Well, at least, I
That's
have to
another.
admit that in today's world, thank goodness there are more professionals of different cultures that are either tax
helping with
consultants,
that, yeah.
lawyers, whatever, that people can go to, right? I mean, you think about that, 20, 30 years ago, if you were definitely an immigrant to this country that spoke, whatever, Italian, Spanish, Chinese, whatever it may be, find somebody that could help you with this, very difficult. And yet, look at the successes of those people in this country. It's amazing.
Despite that.
Yeah, despite that, it's
it is
amazing.
amazing.
But
Yes.
but it's good that there are more people to help here. And,
You
and
just
the
have
idea,
to be like, okay, I have to go through
Exactly.
this, and I have to do it. Because actually, my sales leader, that Greg Monroe, hopefully you see this interview later, Greg. I was telling him, like, when he started talking to me to get into the agency, I was like, I'm just so afraid about all of this, and taxes and accounting, and he's like, don't worry, that one you just have to do it once, and then you will know how to do it.
Right.
Don't worry, that's the easiest part. And it's true, but a lot of people, after 1 year, they just like, it's too much. I'm just going to close that and open another one.
That's a shame.
Absolutely.
But yeah, that's what I can tell about the obstacles for the business owners.
No, and that's probably the biggest one, I would
Yeah.
say. ¿Queremos transicionar
Well,
al español?
ten-
Aparte de
Tenemos la
entrevista.
comunidad hispánica esperando para ver lo que dice Cristel, así que
Sí.
tenemos que empezar a hablar español.
Gracias, sí. Ya está entusiasmada en hablar en español.
Estaba esperando la oportunidad, ¿no?
Definitivamente.
Para los que no ya conocen a ti, tu historia, de dónde vienes originalmente y qué fueron algunos de los obstáculos que has superado
Okay.
en tu vida.
Bueno, soy mexicana, originaria del estado más pequeñito de México, que es Tlaxcala, y de ahí, de un pueblito más chiquito, que se llama Calpulalpan. Entonces, de un lugar muy, muy pequeño. Siempre tuve esta idea, estos sueños que a muchas personas se le hacían muy, ya sabes, irrealísticos, de que no puede ser, no va a poder ser en algún... pues ya sabes, sueñas muy alto, pero siempre tuve esa idea de que yo quería viajar, quería trabajar para una empresa muy grande. Y pues sí, trabajé para Disney y ahorita no trabajo, represento a State Farm, la compañía de seguros más grande de Estados Unidos, la número 1, lo cual me hace sentir muy orgullosa porque estoy representando a una compañía que ha demostrado quiénes son. Básicamente, empecé aquí, llegué aquí a Charlottesville en el 2011. Solamente venía por un verano, solamente que venía a pasar el el verano con mi papá, mi mamá, y que venía de México, mis hermanos, y tener un verano, y después me iba a Europa. Iba a empezar a estudiar mi maestría en Finlandia.
En Finlandia.
Sí. Y pues eso quedó en el olvido, ¿no? Una vez que yo empecé a trabajar aquí y empecé a ver la necesidad que tenía nuestra comunidad y el sentir que yo hacía falta en este lugar, me hizo darme cuenta que quería quedarme. Entonces ahí empecé todo, pero ahí empezaron los obstáculos también, porque yo llegué con una visa que le llaman H1B visa,
sí.
H1B, que es básicamente profesional para profesionistas, y solamente te dan 3 años y después pueden renovarte 3 años más.
Sí.
Obviamente era un poco difícil debido a que pues tenías que pasar por un proceso hasta llegar a ser residente y después ciudadana, ¿no? 9 años después, soy ciudadana americana, y fue por los procesos que pasé, por los procesos de básicamente el ser muy no por cualquier obstáculo quieras dejar todo. Tienes que ser ser consistente
sí.
en lo que haces,
sí.
y tener un sueño y solo enfocarte, como los caballitos, ¿no? Si, para ganar la carrera les ponen para que no puedan ver en ningún otro lado y se distraigan. Básicamente ese ha sido el cómo visualizo para obtener mis sueños, el enfocarme a lo que yo quiero. Y fue difícil, o sea, muchas veces tú quieres salirte de ese trabajo porque ya no te gusta, ¿no? Porque ya te aburriste. Pero le digo ahorita a las personas que trabajan en la agencia, a nuestros team members, cualquier trabajo tiene su dificultad.
Sí.
Tú escoges qué dificultad quieres lidiar todos los días, ¿no? Y si esto es muy difícil, pero te pones a pensar en qué otros problemas más difíciles puede haber allá afuera, pues ustedes deciden, ¿no? ¿Qué problema quieren tener? Y eso fue lo que yo siempre pensé, que todo es difícil, pero lo bueno cuesta. Y eso fue lo que me ayudó a enfocarme a lo que quería, y pues yo creo que tengo muchísimos clientes que se volvieron amigos que se volvieron familia, ¿no? Como Olga. Olga fue cliente de la agencia y después se volvió familia, ¿no? Ustedes también.
Claro que sí.
Entonces, es un proceso que ha sido un poco difícil, sí, por todo migración y todo eso, que no nos la pone nada fácil, pero gracias a la educación que pues realmente obtuve en México, que me dio la oportunidad de obtener muchísimos diplomas, certificados. También estuve en China estudiando por 6 meses en la Universidad de Shanghai, finanzas y marketing.
Shanghai también.
Shanghai, sí.
Viajadora. Ciudadana del mundo.
Y pues en México tener la oportunidad también de estudiar en una universidad la cual tiene reconocimiento y tiene muchas puertas, tiene muchas oportunidades para los estudiantes a nivel mundial, pues me ayudó a que yo pudiese tener estas herramientas para poder venirlas a aplicar aquí y que fuese un poco más fácil para mí, ¿no?
Una pregunta, cuando tú viniste a este país, ¿ya hablabas inglés o lo aprendiste más o menos trabajando aquí?
Bueno, no lo hablo perfectamente
no, lo
todavía.
Muy bien, así que por eso pregunto.
Pero progresamos cada día. Pues yo pensaba que lo hablaba, ¿no?
Como yo pienso que hablo español.
Porque entiendo, yo iba a la universidad y, siendo sincera, yo era, como aquí son A's, en México son 10, del 1 al 10, el 10 es la mejor calificación. Yo tenía 10 en todo, inglés 6. O sea, era pésima en inglés, porque el oído me costaba muchísimo trabajo. Yo era así de, no entiendo nada, hablan muy rápido, no entiendo. Entonces tuve que, a mis papás no saben, hasta ahorita van a saber que de hecho una vez tuve que, I drop English class, la di de baja para que no contara, para que no contara en mi GPA, general, y no me afectara. Entonces, pues ya les tuve que decir que pues tenía que tomar una extra clase. Sí. Tenemos que pasar un examen que se llama TOEFL en México. Esa era la pesadilla más grande que yo tenía realmente. Entonces, cuando yo voy a Disney por primera vez y teníamos que trabajar en un parque y teníamos que tomar clases también para que te las validaran en la universidad. Sí. Cuando yo iba a las clases, yo entraba sabiendo nada y salía sabiendo nada. Porque no entendía nada.
Porque era difícil de entender en inglés.
Sí. Era muy difícil.
Pero bueno, y en fin, usted tiene que tomar un curso, ¿no? Y sacar una licencia para ser seguros, ¿no?
Ah, claro, eso ya es otra historia. ¿Y eso es en inglés? Eso sí, eso es otra historia. Eso allá en Disney, pues era mucha gente que de Puerto Rico, México. Realmente yo no aplicaba tanto el inglés más que con los profesores, sí. Pero todos mis amigos eran boricuas, ticos, mexicanos, entonces no aplicaba tanto. Entonces cuando ya vengo aquí, es una historia bien chistosa que quiero contar. Cuando yo tuve la entrevista por teléfono para la persona y la gente que iba a trabajar aquí en Charlottesville, mi inglés era pésimo, entonces era por teléfono. Y yo era mi día libre y me llaman para hacer la entrevista y, me empezó a hablar y de plano era, como decimos nosotros, no entendía ni papa. Y yo así de, yes, I would love the opportunity. I would love the opportunity. If you give me the opportunity, I would love the opportunity. So, la gente continuaba hablando y yo decía lo mismo. Y yo así de, no entiendo nada. Yo les decía a mis amigos que estaban a un lado, yo no entiendo nada de lo que están diciendo, pero bueno, un día después, ok, te damos la oportunidad para que vengas a hacer la entrevista. Y yo, yo creo que emocionó. Exacto. Entonces ya me mudo aquí a Virginia y es cuando, wow, el impacto cultural fue bastante, sí. Porque vas de Disney, pues todo el tiempo estás feliz y, welcome, you know.
Y en Charlotte no estabas feliz. ¿Qué es lo que
bueno, sí estaba
decir?
Feliz, pero
bueno.
Llego aquí y empiezo a hablar, ya sabes, empezar mi día normal y llego y yo así de, hi, how are you? I have no, I cannot say that. Entonces me hablan de los que trabajaban en la agencia. Cristel, creo que le tienes que bajar como que un poquito a tu alegría, porque tienes como que cambiar el switch, ya no estás en Disney, ya estás en una oficina y todo, y yo, perfecto. Es que te meten en Disney y es tan bueno el customer service, sí. Que te vuelves así, te vuelves una persona alegre. Sí. Porque, llegas y tu mundo es mágico. Sí. Por eso tenía que salir de ahí.
Pero aquí estamos en I Love Seville, así que es igual.
Exacto, sí. No, la comunidad y Seville es I Love Seville, definitivamente va con esto. Pero sí, fue y después de ahí fue lo que me costó trabajo. Bueno, saqué la licencia, no la pasé la primera vez. Y me dolió mucho, me enojé mucho conmigo misma, pero básicamente sí, yo tuve que, de hecho, traducir casi el libro de inglés a español. Y era un libro de 200 páginas, 300 páginas, y lo tuve que, para yo poder entender
lo que
después poder procesarlo en inglés.
Sí.
Y ya después de ahí, pues ya me empecé a involucrar mucho más con gente que hablaba inglés. Todos los de la oficina hablaban inglés. Me daba miedo contestar el teléfono porque no entendían los nombres de las personas, William Smith.
Es muy difícil, Smith, muy difícil.
Exacto, bueno.
Martínez es fácil,
es
pero
fácil.
Smith.
Sí, Smith. Yo así de, y es... ok, pero poco a poco. Entonces ya a diario usarlo, pues obviamente va mejorando un poco y ya puedo decir que ya pasé ese obstáculo, pero aún así todavía cuesta un poco de trabajo cuando estás hablando en cuestiones financieras, sí. En cuestiones más inversiones, cosas así. Definitivamente, aunque hables inglés, es difícil. Aún,
Sí,
pero
y nosotros somos lo opuesto, ¿no? Porque naturalmente yo vine aquí cuando tenía 7 años, así que mi español es juvenil, ¿no? Entonces, cuando tengo que hablar de negocios, las palabras, las sé en inglés y las estoy buscando en español y no las encuentro.
¿Sí?
Tengo que ir al diccionario, pero
o no suenan bien.
No están. Y si están, ya muchas están perdidas ya, así que no.
O no suenan bien, ¿no? Así como que no, de esto no suena igual que como
eso
que
mismo.
con el significado que yo le quiero dar.
Sí. Sí,
¿No?
Eso pasa a mí con español. A veces yo tengo que hacer un círculo porque yo no sé la palabra correcta. Entonces yo tengo que usar
diferentes palabras
para
decir lo mismo.
Para
Sí,
decir lo
sí,
mismo.
sí.
Exactamente. Pero lo bueno es la importancia de luchar, de seguir luchando. Porque en tu historia, aprender inglés era una cuestión de experiencia, no necesariamente educación formal de una clase. Es la experiencia de hablar inglés cada día en Charlottesville.
Y es lo que le digo, por ejemplo, a John, a mi esposo, él quiere aprender español y está enfocado. Pero es difícil más a cierta edad, ¿no? O sea, no es que estemos viejos ni mucho menos, pero simplemente ya es más difícil. Sí. Y yo le digo, hasta que no vayas y vivas en México 1 año, te voy a mandar para México, sí. No vas a aprender. Pero ahorita, por ejemplo, que mi mamá estuvo con nosotros 3 meses, porque tuve la fortuna de tenerla cuando la bebé nació, el hablarlo y el escucharlo definitivamente ayuda bastante. Entonces sí, es muy cierto, es cuestión de práctica solamente.
Sí. Y necesidad.
Y necesidad, en mi caso.
Cuando no hay remedio, hay que aprender la lengua, ¿no? Así es.
En mi caso eso fue también, porque aunque tenía las mejores clases a lo mejor en México, no aprendía, o más que nada no entendía lo que hablaban. Pero sí, ahorita nos da mucho orgullo el que, bueno, hablar un poquito de lo que es la agencia, si me permiten un poquito rápido. Empezamos, bueno, después de 7 años de ser team member en una agencia, empecé el proceso en el 2018, empecé enero 2018, en diciembre de 2018 se abrieron las puertas de la agencia. Y hay dos opciones en las cuales tú puedes abrir tu agencia, una con una cartera de clientes o de cero, ¿no? 0 clientes. Entonces yo ya era tiempo, y aparte se llegó la persona indicada que me ayudó bastante, mi sales leader Greg, que me ayudó a quitarme el miedo. Y también yo ya estaba lista mentalmente. Financieramente estábamos siempre, nunca vas a estar listo, ¿no? Pero siempre tienes que hacer eso, siempre tienes que hacer un tipo de esfuerzo o, limitarte para poder hacer lo que quieres hacer. Entonces, yo decidí empezarla con 0 clientes. Y al principio era un poco difícil pensar, bueno, ¿de dónde vamos a sacar todos estos clientes que se necesita? Porque trabajé 7 años con agentes de State Farm. Todos mis amigos, mi familia, amigos de mis amigos, todos ya estaban asegurados con State Farm. ¿Y ahora qué hago? En una nueva comunidad que es Richmond, que no conocía a nadie realmente, porque no iba para allá o no tenía amigos que fueran de Richmond, y probablemente si conocías a alguien, pues era una persona. Sí. Entonces fue un riesgo que tomé, pero hablando de riesgo, que ustedes hablaban de riesgo, la vida es un riesgo.
Sí,
y dicen, tienes que brincar cuando más, como dice algo que leí, tienes que brincar cuando más tengas miedo, porque si no, nunca vas a brincar. Entonces, sí, este es el momento para hacerlo. Y empezamos de 0 y rompimos muchos récords en nuestro primer año como Scratch Agency. Fuimos los número 1 en Virginia en asegurar a business owners. Wow. Y eso es bastante, porque el asegurar un auto o una casa es mucho más fácil que asegurar un negocio. Claro, sí, porque tienes que hablar de payroll, de todo, ¿no? Entonces, fuimos número 1 en el 2019, y número 1 en el 2020 en Virginia en cuestión de business insurance.
En el estado total.
De Virginia, y en cuestión de Estados Unidos estamos en FIRE, estamos en alrededor del número 10 a nivel nacional en cuestión de business insurance. Y es porque nos apasiona eso es nuestra pasión, enfocarnos a los pequeños dueños de negocio,
Claro,
sí.
porque les ayudamos a proteger todo lo que ellos pueden poner en riesgo si algo llegase a pasar. Entonces, eso es nuestro enfoque. La primera, básicamente, nuevo agente que gana el premio en este territorio de Small Business Leader en el 2020. Y en el 2020, para mí, estar en los 100 mejores agentes, viniendo de una agencia que tenía 0 clientes, era un sueño. Tú compites con muchos agentes a nivel nacional. Sí. Bueno, empezamos como el número 99 y terminamos como el número 33 en el 2019. Y en el 2020, nuestro mejor ranking ha sido el número 7.
Número 7.
A nivel nacional. De 0, viniendo de 0 clientes. Entonces es un orgullo bien grande que tenemos, porque además de eso hicimos Chairman Circle, que es un reconocimiento básicamente elite en State Farm. Alrededor de 5% de los agentes califican para eso a nivel nacional. Y ese era un sueño que yo tenía, pero nunca pensé que lo lográramos tan rápido, ¿no?
Sí.
Y es gracias a nuestra comunidad. Gracias a mis clientes, que les quiero agradecer ahorita, que si alguien me está escuchando, que tengo muchos amigos en Facebook que son mis clientes, que gracias a ellos estamos donde estamos por la confianza que nos dan.
Sí. Es una comunidad especial.
Sí.
Definitivamente.
La comunidad no solo de latinos, pero de dueños latinos y empresarios latinos. Es especial porque creo que hay una solidaridad de las dificultades, de la cultura, y de la idea de seguir luchando para nuestros negocios, para crecerlos y para proveer para nuestras familias.
Bueno, Cristal, ha sido un orgullo, como tú dices, ha sido un orgullo tenerte aquí, hablar tanto en inglés como en español y decir tu historia y lo que has hecho para la comunidad, y lo agradecemos mucho.
Muchísimas gracias por la invitación, Alex, Xavier y Jerry por ahí, que lo he seguido. Muchísimas gracias también a todos por tenerme.
Gracias.
Saludos.
It's amazing, always amazing. We've got a comment before we close. We've got, look at this, 2 comments. We've got John Noel.
I wonder who he is.
One of these days, we gotta have him on just to talk like movies with our brothers. He is the master. Everything you want to know about new movies. He's got 3 amazing people, a lot to learn from them. Stephanie Colón, super orgullo, desde 0 y ahora realizando sueños y metas y ayudando familias en nuestra comunidad. Sí, es verdad, es la verdad. So it's always amazing to have these guests like Cristal on.
Entrepreneurs.
Entrepreneurs.
Who have dreams and succeed in their dreams, right? Because they work hard.
Showcasing really the Latino entrepreneur spirit. In Charlottesville, in Richmond, everywhere in Virginia that we can reach and just show people just that drive and that inspiration. And we're going to have that next week also. We will be having on Fernando today. He is local. He is House of Cuts on the corner. It's going to be fantastic. He's pretty much almost like Cristal. He's done a little bit of everything. He's got, you know him as like he's the great barber of Charlottesville.
That's right. He's the artist with the hair.
The artist. I mean, I'll never forget seeing him in the New York Post, that he was doing the hair for Kyle Guy when he was on the championship team. But he's so into investing for the community, and really just he teaches people. I saw him recently teaching about life insurance, so he knows about that also. And just really, I think he's a great person to talk to about all the things you want to know as a business owner. And really an inspiration. So we're going to have him on. So be sure to join us then. And it's been great having you all here. Continue to hit us with the comments. You can always find us on YouTube. Don't forget, we're presented by Emergent Financial Services. We're partnering with Sombreros down right here right down on the downtown mall here, Mexican Cuisine and Cafe, partnering with Ford Adelante. Thank you all so much for joining us, and until we see you next time,
Hasta mañana.
mañana.